Welcome to session 11, Ending the War with Your Body. Now, I named this session Ending the War with Your Body because working with people with different medical conditions in my career, this is actually a phrase multiple people have come up with on their own and shared with me, feeling like they are genuinely at war with their body. It's really amazing that we can be completely preoccupied with the appearance of our own body and at the same time to be completely out of touch with it. Any deep feelings that you might have about your body, they really can't change until the way you experience your body changes. You know, we often have a really restricted way of looking at the body in the first place. Our thoughts about the body really can drastically limit the range of feelings that we even allow ourselves to experience. So when we work on suspending judgment and put energy into actually experiencing our own body, our whole view of it and ourselves can change drastically. You know, in the Western culture, we're so separated, our mind and our body, that the mind-body connection and health really isn't treated as a legitimate way of healing and understanding oneself. But it really is an important part of healing. If you want to heal, you have to understand that the mind is the body. So to begin with, what the body does is remarkable. It can walk and talk, it judges distance, digests food, circulates oxygen, and so many things. Usually we take these abilities for granted and we really don't appreciate what our bodies can do until we're injured or we're sick. There is so much more right with you than wrong with you, no matter what's wrong with you. Most of us believe that our body's going to function in a certain way, and when it hasn't fulfilled that for us, when our expectations break down or aren't fulfilled, we feel like our body's betrayed us. You know, many of us treat our bodies like we're a car. It's supposed to work, and if it doesn't, we're going to bring it to a mechanic to have it fixed. Do you identify with this attitude? Do you wish that you could leave your body at the doctor for a couple of days and pick it up after all its defective parts are fixed? If the body hurts and can't be easily fixed, or we don't know exactly what's wrong with it, we tend to get anxious or angry or both. And we get upset with our body and or our doctors. And in our mind, the body really becomes the enemy. And since we are our body, we become the enemy in a way. And then you can imagine how this attitude causes a lot of stress, pain, and tension in the body and the mind. And this increased stress, pain, and tension, that in turn exacerbates our negative experience of the pain that we already have and of life in general. If you really think about it, what does the war with your body look, feel, or sound like? Are you yelling at yourself, constantly calling yourself names? Do you give yourself the silent treatment and withhold love and attention? How do you feel when you treat yourself harshly? When you feel at odds with your body and don't treat it like it is a piece of you? How would you feel if another person were treating you this way? Would you let them? When we're barely in touch with our body, we're unaware of how it's feeling most of the time. And as a consequence, we can be insensitive to how our body's being affected by things like the environment, our own actions, our emotions, and our thoughts. And if we're unaware of these connections, we might easily feel like the body's out of control and that we have no idea why. And as I was mentioning last session when we were talking about pain, physical symptoms are messages that the body gives us to inform us of what it needs. And so when we pay attention and are more in touch with our body, we're far more attuned to what's actually going on, and thus better equipped to respond appropriately. You know, learning to listen to your body is really vitally important to improving your health and thus your quality of life. Even something as simple as relaxation can be really difficult to achieve if you're unaware of your body. The stress of daily life leaves us all with tension in our bodies. It might be in your shoulders, your jaw, your forehead, wherever that can be for you. And to be able to release this tension that we accumulate over time, you have to know where it is. You have to feel it. You have to know how to then shut off the automatic pilot, take over controls of your mind and your body, and then physically release that tension. But if you let it go a really long time, that tension becomes so ingrained that you probably have forgotten even what it feels like to be relaxed. And thus you're not even aware that you're not, and that you have this base level of tension now as your norm. And this is why I really emphasize self-efficacy, how we can play a part in our own healing, in our own treatment, in our own care. Because when something goes wrong with our body, we really have this natural expectation that medicine's going to solve everything and make it right. And often it can, but our active collaboration is really essential in all forms of medical treatment. And it's particularly vital in a case of a chronic disease or condition that medicine has no cure for, or a condition that we haven't even placed what's actually going on and we're struggling to even diagnose. And in these cases, the quality of your life might really depend on your ability to know your own body and your own mind well enough to work at optimizing your own health. Whatever your age, taking responsibility for learning more about your body and learning how to listen to it and to start cultivating your inner resources for health and healing is really the best way to support your doctors and to support yourself. And this is where meditation comes in. It helps to embody us and to help catalyze healing. We need to come to observing the body with openness, because thinking that you already know what you need and what's going on is very ingrained, and it can be really unhelpful and lead us to miss a lot. So to become aware really just only requires us to pay attention and see things as they already are. It doesn't require us to change anything or force it to be in any other way. And I'm trying to emphasize that healing really often requires receptivity and acceptance, and putting effort into tuning into our wholeness and our connectedness to all things and to ourself. And none of this can be forced. Just as you can't force yourself to fall asleep, you have to create the right conditions for falling asleep, and then you have to let go. And it can be similar for healing in this way and learning about your body. Bodies are subject to breakdown, and it's inevitable. But they do seem to break down sooner and heal less rapidly if they're not cared for and listened to in some basic ways. And this is why I emphasize things like the body scan, which can be a really powerful form of rebodying, since you're just regularly checking in with, listening to, befriending, and embracing every region of your body systematically. You can't help, in some sense, to develop greater familiarity with your body when you do this. And your body, in a sense, can't help but soften in response. The more familiar, the more attention you pay towards it, and the more kindness and openness you show it. It's helpful also to bring our awareness to what our limits are, and also watch them shift over time and understand that they're not fixed. When there's something wrong with us, with some part of our body, we tend to back off that part, and also we tend to not use any of the body often when that happens. And this solution can really evolve into kind of a long-term sedentary lifestyle. And we watch the rest of our body atrophy away and then actually lose abilities. We can really start to then identify ourselves with a more diminished way of of looking at ourselves and to really start believing that, rather than actually finding out what are our limits and limitations and can we shift them over time. It's important to take this accountability of ourselves and understand that we have some movement in there, because our psychological life can really be built around our preoccupations of our illness, disease, injury, our bodies in general. And it's really powerful how just shifting our perspective and our involvement can have a huge difference. So how can we begin to shift this relationship with our body, with the pain that we experience, with our symptoms, with our condition, anything you want to put in there, any word that feels relevant to you? And so I'm going to walk us through some steps, ones that aren't meant to just happen overnight, but things to start having an intention towards, or being just curious about how could this affect me, my body, my condition differently. So this might be a difficult concept to understand or to let in. And so, like I'm saying, I'm not expecting you to go from a place of being at war or feeling aggressive towards your body or your pain or your symptoms to being friends with them without a bridge. And so this is something that's called the A train. And it's a way of working with your symptoms and listening to your body. And I really want to encourage you, like I was saying on the last slide, to take a more active role in your own health and your own treatment, and learn to listen to your body in order to contribute to your own health. So the first step to aim at understanding, are you doing this? How could you maybe get there? Is acknowledge. Instead of pretending that there's no pain, you don't have a condition, there's no body there that's connected to you, instead of mentally diminishing the severity of things or speaking to yourself harshly, we can do something different. We can pay attention. We can acknowledge that, yes, there is something here. And we want to use wise attention to tune into this actual experience of our symptoms. Wise attention involves bringing calmness and clarity of what we get out of mindfulness to our symptoms, to our pain, to whatever we're dealing with, and to our reactions to them, so that we can not take them so personally. This is rather than being wrapped up in the stories that we usually tell ourselves, which might not be entirely accurate, we want to be able to relate to everything, to the symptoms, to our pain, to our body, in a different way. We don't have to like it to recognize it, but we don't want to numb ourselves to it, to use medication or make these symptoms go away and never actually look at where they're coming from or what they are. We just need to understand that this is a signal from the body, and if we ignore or suppress these messages, then it might only lead to more severe symptoms or problems down the line. So we want to just acknowledge, yes, there is pain here. Yes, there is fill in the blank here. And then the second part is allow. After acknowledging the pain or symptoms or condition, we might even allow the pain or symptoms, condition to be there because it already is there. This permission, though, that we're giving, this shifts our thinking from, I need to make the pain go away in order to feel in control, to I'm taking back control by allowing the pain to be here for right now. And then accept. Over time, we might kind of notice a softening with how we relate to our pain or our condition or our body, just in general. And that can show up as accepting it in the moment. And this doesn't mean that we give up looking for ways to heal. We're just kind of metaphorically putting out the welcome mat for something that's already here, simply because it is already here and there's nothing we can do about it. So why don't we accept it so that we can maybe do something about it in a more accurate way to what's actually here for us in the moment. And lastly, it might be difficult to wrap your head around, but appreciate. We're not defined by the body or our pain or the condition we're in. We're so much more than this, that we might even get to a place where we can appreciate the body for trying so hard to heal itself. And we can maybe start to wrap our head around that these narratives and stories that we tell ourselves, that we might be caught up in them, and that it might be really constraining our options for learning and growing and thus for healing. So there's a lot to maybe make it through the A train, but the idea for paying attention to your body, the goals that I'm speaking about aiming at is forming a healthier relationship with your body. Mindfulness involves helping people to see, feel, and believe in their wholeness and their connectedness, even with anything that's going on that's less than optimal in the body. And then there's learning to listen more closely to the body's needs. When do you need to rest? When is movement okay? And can you advocate for the things that you need? Can you start understanding your limits and then knowing how to nudge them and really being able to trust in yourself to do that? And then hopefully from that, being able to decrease symptoms that you're already experiencing, maybe through something like less tension, or being able to influence inflammation with something like relaxation, or being able to listen to and adjust your body. The guided meditation for this session will be a guided imagery called Dropping the Suitcase. So give it a try.